Alright guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the best combos for the Spearmint Moto Gloves. It seems like the only pair of Moto Gloves that people actually like in the game because they're heavily white with a very nice sort of greeny blue cyan colour in there, or Spearmint colour I should say. Let's not waste any time, let's look at all the best combos for this, and it's not going to be cheap, but it's bloody good. Alright, so let me get them equipped real quick. So here you go, you got a little sneak peek at the USP. The gloves themselves, this is them in-game, this is a field test pair, which will sting you $4,100 at the time of planning, which is pretty nuts. And you can see my go-to pairing for this is a Phase 2 Gamma Doppler. The colors into the mint pattern color just work really well in CS2. This knife, if you go for the M9 option, it's going to cost you $5K. So we are spending $9,000 plus on the knife and glove combo alone here. Of course, you could spend less on a cheaper Phase 2 knife. There's plenty of, that'll be a nicer budget, but when the gloves are this expensive anyway, and even battle scarred, they look like shit, they're still expensive. I feel like you have to lock in on an expensive loadout. Now, to cover the CT agent really quickly, it's going to be Rex Crikey. Seen waffles before. As it stands in the middle of all these update changes, currently the only one who has no sleeves when like holding weapons and inspecting in game. Now, I would like to cover some alternative knives before we get into the weapons. The first one is going to be Ruby knives. Now, I've picked out a paracord here because it's one of the newer ones in the game, and it's a bit more affordable at just under $1,500. The reason I've done this pairing is because there is that like kind of red strip along the gloves, and also there's red stitching too. So if you want to play in to like the accent colors that work together, and also green and red are colors that work well together. Mind you, these shades are slightly different. This is like an alternative one if you want something more unique that makes sense. And what I like about this is the paracord blade actually aligns really nicely with the line in the gloves. And then for the third option, I was considering diamond gems, but I then realized that the Huntsman Vanilla, for example, looks really nice with these gloves if you're on a budget. Now, if you're spending $4K on the field tested gloves, you're probably going to spend more on the knife. But say you're going for the battle scarred gloves, and then you were like, okay, I'm a bit limited on the knife because I spent so much on the gloves. What can I do? $240 for this Huntsman Vanilla that I think pairs really nicely is pretty solid. But overall, that Phase 2 Gamma Doppler is the winner. And we've got it back on now because it looks so good. Now, you got a little sneak peek at the USP. I'm going to be saying the print stream is my shirt here. It's $52 for minimal wear, and ultimately here it's just trying to blend in the white on white, and also the black and browns kind of fit in together quite nicely. If you want to get a bit more creative, you can try using something like the Road Rash. This is $42, so a little bit cheaper. However, with how scuffed it is, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and this is really just trying to blend two of the three colors together. But I think overall, most people will probably just run a craft on the print stream. Now, you actually get some very unique, good pairings with these gloves, like the X-Ray P250, for example. This is only 28 cents. Very value for money, very budget friendly, and it works really well with the gloves, and there's more like this. For example, the Desert Eagle Tilted. Now, there was a Mongols player that was running this combination, and that's where it first caught my eye, and I was like, damn, I can't believe that they're actually opting with their like 5-figure loadout to run a Desert Eagle Tilted, but it makes sense. It works so well with the gloves, and this is like the go-to best pairing. However, if you're just desperate to spend more money, then maybe you want to take a consideration of the Midnight Storm. This Desert Eagle in itself is very good. It's been slowly rising in price as well. It's now up over the $50 mark for factory new, so there you go. It's really up to you which one you prefer. I can't believe I find myself suggesting these sweet little angels. These Joe Berettas still creep me out, and overall, I think there's colors on this, and with it being that weird sort of, I'm gonna say like pastel color, I think it can work with the gloves where there's not really any other strong options in the Joe Beretta range. 5.7, you have one option, but it's a very good option because it's the foil. $5.50 basically for minimal wear. I love the artwork on it. I love the name that are playing into the artwork as well. It's just a cool skin overall that you actually don't see that much in game. Okay, so now we get to the MP9, and you guys can tell me if I was cooked on this one, because I picked out the Mount Fuji. I think it works well enough together as like a little sort of complementary color. But maybe I'm cooked. Maybe I've completely missed something, and if I have, I don't know, leave me in the comments and let me know what I should have ran instead. For the MP7, I actually found myself having to use the secondary colors here. So obviously in inspect, you look at this and be like, doesn't really make much sense. But when you use it in idle, you see the brown of the knuckles coming through. So something like the Sunbaked or the Astrolabe as like an alternative is making sense to not break the bank, but get something that works. Then on the UMP, you actually had a few options, and I got it down between the Scaffold, which you're seeing now, and the Primal Saber. Overall, I think the scaffold just worked that little bit better than the Primal Saber because the colors were a bit more consistent and paired nicer. And then going for a slightly different route again, we're going to have the Monster Mill in the field test for the XM. This definitely has colors that pair nicely with the gloves themselves, and then just a nice range around it. This type of skin with the Spearmint, I think works really well. And then surprisingly, I'm suggesting the Seabird for the Mag 7. I can't believe I've hit a day where I'm actually suggesting the skin, but out of all the Mag 7s, it does work the best with the gloves, so you gotta respect it. Now, it's at this point where I felt like I was being a bit boring with the picks, but maybe it is just the best option. Here we have the print stream. It's $380 for minimal wear. Of course, you could save some money going down the field test, even down to Battle Scarred if you wanted to. Battle Scarred might actually give it the off-white color that would pair with the gloves, but I want minimal wear just so we've got the highest price really in there that we want to go for. Now, this with a craft on it, you could definitely get crafts that pair in with the nice color of the gloves. But I have an alternative as well. I would be interested in using the Vaporwave. It's a third of the cost, but it also has, it's the eyes. It's the eyes on the Vaporwave. I don't know what it is. Like, obviously it's such a small thing, very small detail, but the eyes are close to where the gloves pair. And for me, that just works whilst having a really nice artwork skin rather than like sort of the, I'm going to say the more bland print string. Despite the fact that it wears really badly, the Bullet Rain is such a good M4A4 choice. It is, however, almost $50 for minimal wear, and you can see, like along the top and the back there, just how much wear this picks up. You could jump the factory new, but it's like 4 times the price. But if you're an absolute real baller, you're probably going to want the Poseidon. This is $1,850 plus for factory new. I think the artwork's aged a little pearly on this, but it still is like deemed S tier skin, right? And then an area where maybe there's a hole for this is the op. Now, obviously, I've suggested 2 print streams already. You could probably say print stream again. I wanted to not fall into that trap, and I'm going to suggest the Aetheris. I actually ended up checking online. A few other people suggested the Aetheris with these gloves as well. So you guys can let me know your thoughts. Would you go another route with the op, or would you stock in on the Aetheris for like under $10? Easy peasy. Then we get the skins like the famous Water of Nephthys, and this skin I think is pretty damn good with these gloves. The colors, I mean, if you're really being critical, are a tiny little bit off, but for $60 and getting a S tier famous skin, I actually really like this route, and obviously famous is a bit more usable these days, so it makes sense to spend on it if you're one of those players that can run it. And honestly, I'm not sure if you're using an AUG, but if you are, I quite like going for the Fleet Flock here. I think for under $5, when you're spending this much in this loadout already, like we're spending a very high amount, I think it makes sense to drop a little bit in here just to get something that works. Now, on the T side, I'm actually going to suggest using the agent I have, which is Silent Darrell, who's about $43. Now, I'm going to have to change the knife just to give you the reason for this. Now, the Karambit is currently the only knife in the game unless you change your like view model to make it work. Where you see the watch. Now, his watch here has green accents on it, which means it's pairing in with the gloves and the knife. When we get Gamma Doppler and Talon in the future, this will also do this by sort of the default approach. So yeah, just that's why I've suggested him, because one, the silver accents look pretty good in general with the colors we have, and then if you go for a knife or you change your POV or your to be able to see the watch, then you're winning. And then what really surprised me was that the Phase 4 Gamma Doppler is like the best Glock option you have. In my head, in theory, I didn't think the colors were going to work here, but you know, for $121 factory new, maybe a little bit pricey for what you're getting. Obviously, it is pattern based as well, so keep that in mind. Some patterns will be better, some will be worse. Then the Avalanche was kind of like the obvious choice for the Tech 9, but I say obvious and like essentially the Tech 9 lacks options, and this is the best thing you can do. The CZ, however, I think you want to go for the Polymer. It has enough range of the green and blue that's close enough to what we have on the gloves, and when it's 21 cent, we don't really cry about it. And then for the Mac 10, it has to be the Malachite. This is $3.10, maybe a bit more than I thought it would be when I was initially looking at it, but color wise, it can depend a little bit on the lighting, but this is as close to the color of the gloves that you're going to get on the Mac 10 range. On the P90, you have both a very cheap option and a very expensive option. So kicking it off with the cheap option, the traction is 31 cent minimal wear, and for me, it does the job quite nicely. And then if you just straight up build different, you can get the Astral Jörmungandr for basically $500, which I love this skin. I love the Norse mythology style of things. I love the Jörmungandr tie-ins, but bloody hell, they're getting expensive. And now we're on to the rifles to end things off. On the T side, now for the Gale, I picked out the Cold Fusion for 8 cents, and I just want to note that the Robin's Egg in fact you can use like $half a if you wanted something different. And these gloves have a very obvious AK pairing, in my opinion, I think in the opinion of many of you guys. It's the Aquamarine Revenge. It's a $75 AK in minimal wear, but when it comes to the colors that you're getting, this is just flat out the best option in my opinion, and I think there's enough craft potential here that's fairly unique to really tie this all together. If you're adamant on having an alternative, you could maybe consider the Monster because of that sort of like light blue that it has, but I think it's clear to see, like when you look at this now as an alternative to the Aquamarine Revenge, the Aquamarine just absolutely wins. And I decided to test the water a little bit on the Scout because I've gone for the Azure Glyph. Maybe this is the one time we can actually strongly advise this as an option, because I think the watercolor in it is not the same as gloves, but close enough. Plus then it's got brown on it, and obviously brown is like one of the key colors on the gloves as well. So I feel like it can kind of work for the price. And in the SG, honestly, it had nothing that really like caught my eye. So I went for Damascus Steel. It's $1 minimum wear. Not too much else to say outside of what is the total cost. Now, I didn't cost to the crown, but of course this was merely showcasing, so let me change back to the M9. If you went for the lovely M9, this total loadout cost is $9,949, so we're not too shy of the 10k mark, which means this is one of the most expensive combo guides for gloves that I've made, which is absolutely wild. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the Spearmints, but I wouldn't look at them and be like, damn, that's the gloves I want to be spending the most amount of money behind. And obviously your route of knife could change it. If you went for battle scarred in the gloves and accepted to wear it, you went for a cheaper knife, you could all of a sudden get this down to being like a 5k loadout or under. But for getting the best out of them, I feel like you need to go field test. And just to cover the paracord knife Ruby, this will get you down to $6,430 pretty much. So you can see the knife change alone is already dropping us down by like $3.5 grand. And if you went even lower, down to the Huntsman Vanilla, you get down to $5,189, which I haven't planned to do it, but now I'm going to show you battle scarred versions of these gloves. This is one of the cheapest pairs of battle scarred, which is still like, I'm looking at around £500, from $800, $900 for these gloves. So obviously, compared to the field test, that's saving you $3,000. It's a good saving, but these are the sort of scuffs you're going to have to deal with. And I just wanted to make you guys very clear of that, and that's why I felt the need to go field test. But there we go. If you are cooking with the Spearmints, hopefully you found this useful. And if you just wanted to see what the combos look like with them for maybe future consideration, hopefully that's helped as well. But I'm going to end it there. Before I go, I got to say a big thank you to the YouTube members for supporting the channel. It is greatly appreciated, and we're going to continue to try and cook up some more stuff for you guys. New series starting soon where they'll have priority, just to make that clear a little bit in advance. But there we go. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button if you did. Hit the subscribe button if you aren't here, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.